Hello and welcome back. This is actually going to be a remake of the time-consuming chores. The last video was kind of ucky, and I wanted to redo it so that it wouldn't be distracting to you from the information that I was looking or I'm trying to convey. So last week I went out and spent some time in the woods for a change. I don't get out as often as I would like to, but work and that stuff always gets in the way of what's really important. So, but I did want to comment on some things because I don't think a lot of people realize how true survival kind of camping is, how time consuming the chores really are. Most folks who've gone camping, they usually pack in firewood because most campsites or most campgrounds don't allow outside wood. So, and you obviously can't chop your own. If you did, there wouldn't be a forest where you're camping. So, some of the things that in a survival type of a situation that are going to be extremely time consuming are gathering firewood, finding and purifying water, building your shelter until you have the shelter built, and the food. So most folks when they go camping, they bring in coolers for the food, or they have campers or trailers or whatever that have refrigerators in them. If they run out, they run to the little camp store that's right down the road, or run to the nearest grocery store. But in a survival type of situation, when stuff has really hit the fan and you are camping for real, it's a challenge to keep a fire going. The amount of time that it takes to collect, chop, and stack firewood and to keep it, safe, dry, whatever, is really time consuming. Especially if if you don't have the luxury of a chainsaw. If you're using a bow saw, probably the largest tree, if you have the large bow saw, the largest tree you can probably really truly cut 10 to 12 inches max. For most medium types of saws, you're looking at about 6 to 8 inches. So those logs take some doing to get cut. So you've got to first collect the wood, then you have to cut it. So that takes time. And, a fire can consume quite a bit of wood in a relatively short time. So you really need to think about time management, even when you're in the woods, and especially if you're in a situation where that civilized veneer that I refer to has been peeled off. So, if you are camping, not because you wanted to, but because you have to, then your resources for resupply are probably going to be limited. If there is stuff available, it may be guarded. It may be held on to. People who have stores and things may not want to give them up. So the key that we're trying to get to is to be self-reliant and be able to sustain ourselves, or self-sustaining. So for that, you need to ensure that you allot enough time to gather firewood, so that you can keep your fire going and keep it burning. Okay. The other thing that's going to be time consuming and doesn't always end in a victory is hunting, or trapping, however you're going to secure your part of your food source, especially for the protein. Now, if you're a vegetarian, it's going to probably be even more difficult, especially in the fall and winter. Most of the plants that are edible will be dead by fall and winter. So some nuts come into season, acorns, walnuts, hickory nuts. So you'll be competing against the animals in the area, deer, moose if you live out west or up north where the moose hang out. But in this area, you're going to be you're going to be basically competing with deer, squirrels, raccoons, chipmunks, primarily those types of animals. So you're going to have to start collecting them early and to make sure that you can keep them dry and safe. So, that's going to take some time, and it's not going to last forever. So you're going to have to constantly replenish these resources. Even if you're hunting and using, as your protein and you're, not a vegetarian, then, if you go out hunting, just because you go out hunting doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to wind up bringing something back. So there may be times when you're going to go hungry. That's why in a stuff fits the fan scenario, my recommendation is you begin this process as soon as you have camps set up, or if you have other folks with you and it's not just yourself, then start this process as soon as you get there while the camp is being set up by the others, okay? Because you're going to want to start to secure your source of food so that you can start to smoke it, salt it, however you're going to prepare it, dry it. You are going to have to find some way to preserve that food to keep. Now, where we're at now, here in Kentucky, it's pretty cold. In fact, I think today it's mid 30s-ish. According to WeatherBug, it said it felt like 29 out there. So food, especially game at this point in time, would keep if you hung it in a tree to keep it, away from the animals. But when you get more towards spring and summer, when you don't have that cool temperatures, then it's going to be a little more challenging to keep that meat preserved. So you're going to need to learn how to smoke it. You're going to need to learn how to use salt if you have a source of salt nearby, or to dry it, where you sit it on a rack and allow the sun to dry the meat. So all of this stuff is going to take time. And, one person eating can probably survive on a medium-sized deer, say 150 pounds-ish, for, I don't know, I'd say probably a month and a half. So if you multiply 1 month times the number of people that you have in your group, that's how much food that you're going to have to secure in order to survive for 1 month. Okay? It's a good idea to develop a mental attitude that you're just going to deal with whatever comes up and survive. So, there will be times of hunger. Native Americans back long ago when they were hunters and gatherers often went through periods of time where they were hungry. So you need to plan. You need to plan to plant stuff as soon as you can, even if it's possible to create a greenhouse. Inexpensive hasty greenhouse, just basically get a plastic sheet and build a frame and put it over, and then start to grow things that you can grow in there. Herbs would be one example. Some like beans and plants, tomatoes, anything the things that you can start to grow as soon as you can start to grow them, I would recommend you do so. Okay. And it doesn't have to be super humongously large. Whatever you can grow is going to be a benefit. Okay. If you grow things like that, then you can start to make soups and stews to add to the meat and stuff that you've gotten. Another thing that you can do is learn how to make pemmican. And I don't know if I pronounce it correctly, but basically it's meat that's been dried, ground, and then you add a bunch of stuff to it to make it. I've got a couple recipes. I've made it. It's actually pretty good. It lasts a good long time. One thing that is a challenge, especially in a wilderness type environment, is the fat. Pemmican uses lard or fat to add to it. Now, most wild animals do not have a lot of fat, especially the larger animals like deer and such. So now, bears have quite a bit of fat. If you can find a bear, I'm not sure how good it's going to taste. I've never had bear fat. I've only read about others that used it, in articles and things. So, but if that's all that you have, then that's what you'll have to use, and you will need to get over whatever types of food issues that you may have about, I don't like this, or you're going to starve. So, I mean, it's pretty simple. In the wild, it's pretty much black and white. There's not a lot of gray. It's either you do or you don't, and if you don't, then odds are you will not survive. So maybe that's why I like the woods so much, because it's, there's not a lot of gray areas there. You either do what you need to do or you don't, and if you don't, then you just pay the consequences. So one of the other issues that comes up is your shelter, especially when you first get to a new area. So when you get to a new area, well, first off, let me back up just a second. First thing that you need to do is you need to plan what you're going to do, and you need to select an area that will provide you with the most resources that you can get. Okay, so do those things first. Those will probably be videos all by themselves, because those are pretty involved and there's a lot of stuff that goes into those. But whatever you do, plan first and then execute your plan. Okay, so once you've selected the site, you've selected a location, then you need to start to establish what's going to go in there. Building any type of a shelter, other than some kind of a hasty shelter for like a single person or maybe two people. But if you're building like a cabin, some kind of a lean-to shelter or whatever, anything that's pretty substantial, it's going to take some time. It's going to take a lot of effort, and it's going to take a lot of energy. Okay, especially if you're by yourself. Okay, now a lot of folks have not been in the woods much, or they've never built these kinds of things. So it's kind of a shock when they actually go to start to do this, because you're going to start using muscles that you've not used in a while. And, I've had buddies who were weightlifters that, were worked circles around, because it's a different muscle. It's a different mindset when you're doing actual physical labor versus lifting a set of barbells inside of a gym somewhere. Yeah, they might be able to lift 500 pounds a single time, but can you lift 100 pounds 500 times? That's the difference. And I'm not knocking anybody who's into weightlifting or bodybuilding or whatever, but there is a challenge associated with sustained physical labor, and you're going to get tired. Okay. You're going to get winded. You're going to want to quit. You're going to want to say, I'll just do that tomorrow. Well, the longer it's put off, the harder it is to get it going again. So I recommend that you go ahead and start and you get it done. Okay. But you need to take your time and you need to do it smart. That's why the plan is so important. If you do not already have a structure, like a bug out location, or if you have a bug out location and there's no shelter there, now would be the time to maybe go ahead and start to work on that. If you do it once you get there, understand that there is a time element that's going to be involved between when you first get there and when your shelter is built. It's not going to be something that's put up overnight. Unless you got a whole slew of folks and a whole bunch of chainsaws. So don't, you have to be methodical when you're working on setting up your camp. Okay. So, and it's going to take time. Whether you're building it out of rock, you're going to have to find and collect the rocks. Whether you're using logs to build the cabin or a lean-to, it's going to take time. So understand that, realize that, and allow for that. Allow that in your planning when you go out to do stuff. Okay. First few days that you get to a new site, your primary focus should be on getting a fire established, getting a shelter established, and getting food. Okay. If you're by yourself, then you're probably going to have to do them in that order. Okay. Or that's what I would do, because the first thing I do is I always clear my area and gather the firewood and get a fire going. Because even then, even if darkness falls and I'm still not finished, I can still work by the light of the fire, and I'm not too tired to try to get my fire going. Okay. So the second thing I do, and if I don't have time, like if I'm actually going to build like a cabin, then I will build a hasty shelter of some kind, especially if I'm by myself. Just something quick and hasty that will keep me out of the elements, should it decide to rain or snow or any other type of inclement weather. So, and then, hunting. So you're going to have to split up. If you're by yourself, you're going to have to allocate time for each of those three activities, probably each day. Okay. Now, if you get lucky and, day 1 or 2, you get a deer, then you're probably going to be good for a little while. But don't wait until that food is gone. If you have brought food with you, don't wait till that food is gone or almost all gone before you start to go out trying to find the food in the woods or wherever you are. That's not going to end well. So basically, that's the thing for today. It's the replacement of the video that we did the other day. I haven't been on for a day or so because a good friend of mine, Eve Gonzalez, has finished up her second book, and we've just finished the edits. It's in the process of being published up to Amazon and Kindle now. The book is titled Determined to Survive, A Mother-Daughter's Journey. It's a very good book. It has some survival techniques and hacks inside of it. Those I provided for her. But the story is focused on the mental and spiritual aspects of being out of your comfort zone. And even though it's a woman's perspective, it's really something that a man should read probably too, because the story gives a perspective that we may not understand, or we may be facing ourselves. Okay, because some of the things that she talked about, I've experienced myself in my own day-to-day lives out in the woods. So it's, even though it's a woman's perspective, it's still a good book for both, men and women. If you're a man and you have a significant other that, wife, girlfriend, sister, mother, this is probably a good book that you should get for them to help them, because in the event that something happens, and heaven forbid something happens to you, or the male companion of your mother, sister, daughter, co-worker, they're going to be faced with surviving on their own in an environment that is sometimes hostile, or is oftentimes hostile, even when nothing is going on. When we're in the woods, even camping, we are not at the top of the food chain. So this book will help to give them some of the basic skills and to understand some of the challenges that they may face while they're out there surviving. So, I highly recommend that, everybody get this book and read it, because it has a good message to it. In the title, Determined to Survive. That was, that's the whole thing. If you're not determined to survive, odds are you're not going to. So this book will help you to get that, that drive, that determination to survive. So I'm going to probably post another video here in a few moments about some other things that I wanted to talk about, but I wanted to get this one out because I think it is important that you understand that things are going to take some time, and that there are some challenges that you're going to have to overcome while you're in the woods, okay? Whether you're just camping on a normal day, or, as I said, the civilized veneer has been peeled off, and, we're basically a nation at war. So I will talk to you soon. Again, if you're, please subscribe so that you can get the updates, and, let us know how we're doing, what you think of the videos. If you like them, hate them, whatever, send me an email, guy@greatlivingsources.com, or you can go to the website, greatlivingsources.com, and there is a contact page that you can send a message to us. You can leave a message on the YouTube channel, or comment on the YouTube channel. We try to, select those, and as those come in, and add those as the videos as soon as we can get them in. So, but we want you to stay safe. We want you to be ready, and that's the whole goal of this. It's not to, convince you of whatever, but if you are ready, mentally, spiritually, and physically ready for a disaster, it doesn't matter what happens, then the odds of your survival and those that you care about is drastically improved. Okay? So be ready, be safe, and we will talk to you soon. Thank you.